We'll come into Palantir shortly, which is obviously what a lot of people watching this channel will be interested in. Firstly, though, I want to talk about markets and I want to talk about AI. So, broader trends, AI, tech growth, interest rates, investor appetite. How do you see all those things going on in the macro market at the moment? What's your sort of perspective and vantage view on that?
Well, I think that, let's start with AI because we're going to talk about that probably quite a lot. But, that is the most powerful investment theme in the market right now. That really is the major investment theme of the last 2 years. And I think will remain so for certainly for some time to come. That is the focus and obviously help propel NVIDIA as one stock to the most valuable company in the world. So AI is really what's driving everything at this stage, but is the most pervasive investment theme. And the companies that are seen as being heavily involved in the AI investment theme are really the ones that are winning in the market right now. And I think the market itself is in a good position. At the end of the day, what really drives the market are the companies themselves and the earnings that they report. And so far, certainly the larger tech stocks in the market, the Mag 7, but the largest companies in the S&P are posting good or positive earnings, which is driving the market forward. You put that in a backdrop of inflation being under control, of interest rates certainly coming down in the back half of this year, and an economy that is more or less at full employment. And I think you have a picture that is obviously pretty conducive for investing more broadly and the market more generally. And that's why we have a market that is trading at or near all-time highs. I mean, talking about the US market, of course.
Mm. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And the markets are at all-time highs, but you mentioned some really important things there. Good employment, companies' earnings are accelerating. I mean, where we're just about to see interest rates be cut. They've been cut in the UK a few times already. No one cares about the UK. They're hopefully going to be cut in the States coming
Yeah.
towards the end of this year. I mean, I don't know what the poly mark is, but it's going to be pretty dead set that's going to happen. So we're at all-time highs. Are we probably going to push higher, do you think? Like, as interest rates cut, one would assume it's a bit more risk on appetite, multiple expansion, etc. So yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
The short answer is yes, because if you again put it back to what's driving the market are the largest companies in the market. Those companies are growing still at a very significant rate. And if you look at the biggest company in the world, NVIDIA, which is still growing at a phenomenal rate for the size of that company, down to other companies that everyone's very familiar with, is that we're at the end of the day talking about companies that are in growth mode, and that growth compounds over time, but clearly is feeding into the earnings that they're posting on a quarterly basis and the health of the overall business. So yes, those companies are growing and therefore the market's growing.
So do you that is where the best opportunity is in this market at the moment?
Yeah, I think that, and probably as a second, the other theme that's been incredibly popular and has gotten a lot more momentum, at least over the last couple of years, is crypto more broadly. And I know that's a very broad church, but certainly a huge amount of renewed interest in the crypto sector. Everything from the cryptocurrencies themselves, the major cryptocurrencies, to the exchanges, the miners, all the different sort of participants in that ecosystem. So that's another one which has received a lot of investment interest.
So moving over to AI specifically, you must be surrounded by a lot of institutional investors. You're in New York, so you're on Wall Street. Um, AI, what are the institutional investors making of AI at the moment, the opportunity of it, and then company valuations?
So I think we have to sort of caveat this a little bit by saying that institutional investors are no different really to ordinary investors at the end of the day, and that there are people who are absolutely 100% bullish on AI and everything associated with AI. And then there are the other investors that, they let's just say they're not bullish on AI, or maybe leaving aside whether they're bullish or bearish, the valuations of certain companies are perceived to be too high for them, and therefore they focus much more on value-orientated stocks or stocks with a lower valuation. And so there's always that push and pull. I think the people that are of the growth mindset, are all in on AI, very much believe that we're in the early innings here, that this is like we're in the early stages of the fourth industrial revolution, that this is the force that will change, all of our lives here in a way that, nothing has done before. And therefore you want to be on the ground floor of this, and, you're trying to pick the companies that will perform best in this particular environment. And then you'll have the other guys that, may or may not be persuaded by that particular argument, but will not buy a Palantir or something just because they feel like the valuation is too stretched, and they'll be buying, in the sort of Warren Buffett-esque, playbook. They'll be buying companies that have a lot lower valuation, and this is the kind of the push and pull between value investing and growth investing that's been going on now for as long as I can remember.
So if we put AI in the context of companies around the world, you've got the startups which are full send on AI. You've probably got then like a bunch in the middle who are trying to adopt it as fast as they can, bring it into their workflows, make the most of it. There's going to be a lot of old school companies out there who like they're just using chat GPT, or they think AI search on Google is amazing. Like, they're going to be just like scratching the surface. If we were then to try and get an understanding of how it's on Wall Street at the moment, if you move the valuations to the side, and let's say the valuations weren't so rich that some investors just aren't even going to look at it, would you say that most of the finance industry is looking at AI and is looking to progress forward? Or is there like a whole class of, uh, for lack of a better phrase, dinosaurs who just don't want to touch AI, aren't looking at it, aren't interested, whatever? Yeah, how do you think about that?
Well, I think that everybody's looking at it, and if anything, I'm trying to think of the example where you couldn't be in some way exposed to AI, because regardless of whether you like it or not, regardless of whether you are trying to embrace it or not, it's a fact of your everyday existence, and it's only going to get more interesting, more integrated with things they're doing. So you're right. I mean, maybe there are people who are still, just using Chat GPT, etc. But it's everywhere, and it's only going to get better from here. I always say, that AI will never be as dumb as it is today. And, from that perspective, it's scary to think about, what the possibilities are and how it will change, everybody's life.
So Palantir, obviously a huge AI company. It's important for your company as well, which we'll touch on. Again, you must speak to a lot of institutional investors. You must know what it's like on the street. What are they currently making of Palantir?
I think, again, it's fair to say, to try and be as balanced as possible, that you'll have that split between the growth orientated investors and the value orientated investors. I think the growth orientated investors will be completely dialed into Palantir going to $1 trillion or being $1 trillion plus company. And, from a valuation perspective, it's less about the value of the company today. It's about the value of the company in a few years' time, and the opportunity to be, right at the sort of the fulcrum of the AI data solutions that the company is providing, not just to big governments, but to corporations around the world. And so, I think that is very much the thesis. And if you're not on board with that, it will always be a technical argument around, the valuation, or, something or other that will kind of put you off. But for those that are interested in Palantir, interested specifically in AI, it's going to be about growth. And for growth, it's not a growth today. It's where's the company in a few years' time story.
You mentioned that split between government and B2B. So for anyone who's not aware, Palantir's got two core business models. Okay, they help governments they help them with all sorts of different things, and they help businesses. Some people like that balance, some people don't. What are your thoughts? And so the reason some people don't like that is because government can be slow and archaic and slow moving and things like that. And they want to go full send on the B2B side, the SaaS, the exponential growth. But some people like it because the government contracts offers a bit of stability. What are your feelings on that? And then also, what do you think other investors around you in New York sort of think about that?
Well, I mean, I think that's a good thing because if anything, that's the hardest part of the puzzle to crack is doing any kind of business, particularly large scale contracts with governments, because of all of the things you just mentioned. But the procurement processes can be very cumbersome, detailed, and just to be able to get some of these contracts, I think is a big coup and be ingrained in a lot of the key government departments, particularly on the defense side. So to me, it's almost the opposite way around. Almost I see the government work as being huge plus for the company that they've been able to get that done. And then now the almost the easier part is focusing on the pure commercial side with other corporations that can make decisions quickly and can integrate their software or AI solutions, on a purely commercial basis if they see fit. So I think the government business has been undeniably a huge plus for the company. It's very lucrative work, big contracts, large revenue. It's sticky, and I think the B2B opportunity clearly is big, on the pure commercial side.
Yeah, I think that's a good angle. I think if you can do it in the government realm, then like you can probably do it in the business realm. Alex Karp and at the business, they often refer to Palantir as battle tested. And part of what they mean by that is the fact that their software and technology is used on the battlefield. But I think they've also won the battle of government procurement, right? A lot less sexy, but probably just as impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
And
think about how difficult that can be, to get some of these massive contracts with, Department of Defense or whatever it may be. I mean, they can be hugely complicated.
definitely. And then that is a natural segue onto Alex Karp. Now, a lot of founders, a lot of CEOs are often quite crazy, wacky individuals, and sometimes we love them for that. I'm a big fan of Alex Karp. I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, as divisive as that may be at times. How do you think having a CEO and founder like Alex Karp goes down from, again, a New York institutional kind of perspective?
Oh, I don't think there's any negativity around him at all. If anything, there's huge praise for what he's done with the company, what he's achieved, and clearly Palantir is a rock star company, whichever way you cut it. You can choose to not buy into it, but you can't deny that that's been an unbelievable success, and he's a big part of that.
So something which has come up a couple of times already is Palantir's valuation. What do you think about their valuation at the moment? Are they overvalued?
I mean, it's all about your perspective. Again, if you think that Palantir is $1 trillion plus company in the next few years, then they're not. They're a company that, just like Nvidia or other companies in the market that are growing rapidly, the valuation, if you're comparing it to a large cap, stock that is not on a high growth trajectory in the S&P, then yes, the valuation is going to look a lot higher. But Palantir, some of these other companies are growing into these valuations over the next few years. And again, you have to believe that, you've got a multiplier effect, in AI deployment, and that, the CapEx that the hyperscalers are spending on AI, there's a multiplier effect within that industry that tumbles down to all of the companies in the space. And so I think that if you were to look at the company today and clearly say this is going to be $1 trillion plus company in a period of time, then it's not overvalued. But if you were to compare it to the valuation of Coca-Cola or something, then you'll get the people that say, "Wow, look at how overvalued it is," and that's what makes the market.
That indeed is. So something that retail often likes to toot its own horn about is saying they're so much further ahead than institutional investors. They're picking up trends earlier. They understand maybe companies at a deeper level, maybe because actually often retail analysts spend all their lives devoted to like one company or a handful of companies rather than monitoring a whole market or a whole basket of stocks. Do you think retail has been ahead of the curve on AI? And, I mean, you look at Palantir's run, you look at Tesla's run in 2020, and do you think then retail has an advantage sometimes in these breaking new trends, new cycles, new super cycles? Or do you think that's not the case, which could also be fair enough?
Again, depends on the way you look at it. I would say that the one thing that I've noticed, or I can see that you can apply, I think, to a lot of retail investors, and again, this is a gross overgeneralization, but I think it's important to say, is that they're not held back by the traditional investment dogmas, like, for example, growth and value, particularly around value investing, which I think can really inhibit a lot of professional investors that almost they can't get out of their own way. And when you can't sort of see the wood from the trees, that is a weakness clearly that can lead to massive underperformance or missed opportunities. And I think that sometimes what you see with retail investors, whether it be in some of the big tech trends, et cetera, they're not really held back by these dogmas and can view a trend for what it is and say, AI is going to be huge, or, Tesla, full self-driving, or robotaxi, whatever it is you kind of choose to look at. And you can be part of that trend in a way that perhaps institutional investors or certain institutional investors might not, at least not get in there as early, for example, or not see perhaps the potential in that particular lens.